advice and analyzing your financial statement. Give me 1 second here. I'm just actually going to turn on my light so that some of you can see me. For those of you who have never seen my face before, my name is Alana. I run the coaching program here at Enriched Academy. I'm super excited to do this webinar. It's the first webinar I've actually done on the industry of financial advice and analyzing your financial statement, even though we do it all of the time in our coaching program. So if you have any questions about anything at all that pertains to anything I'm talking about in this webinar, please just chat away in the chat box. I will get to them at the end of this webinar. We've got about 10 to 15 minutes for me to answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. Most of the people who come into coaching have some kind of financial advisor that they work with. And a lot of clients that we get who come into coaching are looking for some alternatives. So today I'm going to teach you about how to read your financial statement and also just to understand whether or not you are somebody who actually requires a financial advisor at this point in time. So, I think you really need to ask yourself this question. Do you feel confident when it comes to investing? If you do, can you dedicate at least 30 minutes per month to looking after your own investments? And are you comfortable using a computer? I think one of the biggest things when people want to start investing is that there's a big world out there, right? There's robo advisors now and there's self-directed investing. And then you have your typical financial advisors who are the humans at the bank or at your investment management firm or wherever. So if you don't feel confident in investing, if you really have no time on your side, and if you're really not comfortable using a computer, you probably will in some way or some form or another need some kind of financial advisor. So we're going to talk about that today and what you can really do to look out for yourself so that your financial advisor is looking out for your best interest, not the interest of themselves or the shareholders that they are trying to cater to. Now, before we get into the good stuff, I just want to go over through a couple of facts. 49% of fund managers owned no shares in the mutual funds that they manage. 46% of financial planners have no retirement plan. Now, it's really important that when you're talking to a financial advisor to figure out how they get compensated, because how they get compensated is potentially going to affect the advice that you're going to receive long term. Now, there's usually about two ways that financial advisors can get paid. They get paid on a commission or they get paid on a fee-based structure. Now, most people who come into coaching have financial advisors who get paid on a commission-based structure. And basically what happens is that they receive a commission from selling certain financial products. Now, does anybody know how to read this next picture here? Because I don't. This is a completely totally different language. I've never seen this. It's like words and symbols. It's on some kind of rock somewhere. But this is one of the biggest problems that we see with a lot of our coaching clients who come into coaching is that they just do not understand the language of money that their financial advisors are spewing at them when they go into a bank or they go to a financial institution or they go to an investment management firm. And they sit down and they say to them, I have money and I want to put it somewhere. Let's say you're a client, you go in and you're like, I've got a little bit of money and I want to put it somewhere. Well, all of a sudden, and I'm sure a lot of you can attest to this, all of a sudden these advisors are just yapping your ear off about RSPs and ROIs and RORs and, the price to earnings ratio. It's a brand new language of money that most people who come into coaching do not understand at all. And that's actually one of the reasons that they come into coaching is because they want to understand that. They want to understand what the difference is between a TFSA and why I should have one versus an RRSP, or what are the fees that I'm paying on my fees, or what is the return on investment that I have in my account. Because basically at the end of the day, if you're not aware of the money, if you're not aware of where your investments are and how they've been performing in your investment portfolio, that's not a good thing, right? Because you worked hard every single day to go out and to make this money. And if you don't know what it's doing for you at the end of the day, and you're just blindly trusting your advisor at your institution, it may not be making as much money as it possibly could be. So today we're going to kind of go through a little bit of the language of money. And the most important thing when you're looking at your financial statement and you're looking at any kind of investment that you're in is something known as the MER ratio, the MER. And what that is, it's a management expense ratio. Basically, in the easiest way possible, it's a commission. That's all it is. Now, stocks don't have an MER ratio. Mutual funds do. Exchange traded funds do. There are some other investments out there that do have MER ratios, but those are the two common ones that we're going to be talking about today is mutual funds and exchange traded funds. And the MER is basically just a commission that the advisor is getting paid or somebody is getting paid for you to hold that fund. Now, in Canada, our average MER is 1.94%. This is brutal. We are among the worst. Countries in the world that have the highest fees, right? We get graded as an F in terms of MER fees and investor fees. It's very, very expensive. And we work with people all across, who have American funds, and it's crazy to see that their MER fees are like in the 0.4s and 0.3s and 0.2s. And that's just a regular going into a bank in the States and talking to an advisor, but they put you into very low fees. And the reason that we focus so much on fees is that because at the end of the day, the more fees that you pay, the more money it takes out of your account and out of your hard-earned dollars year over year over year. And I want to show you on this next slide, I want to compare $100,000 invested over a 30-year period. So if you took $100,000 and you gave it to a representative at the bank, and they put that $100,000 into a mutual fund that had an MER fee of 1.94%, versus let's say you find an exchange traded fund yourself and you want to take a little bit of time doing self-directed investing and you put it into your own ETF portfolio that has an MER of 0.31%. This is the difference that you will save, which will be more money in your pocket at the end of the 30 years. Let's say we're making an 8% return. You will have saved $383,918 in savings. That is massive. And if you're thinking right now that, maybe you're young, doesn't matter where you are really in life in terms of where you are with your finances, there's no better time to dissect what your financial advisor or your investments have been doing than now. The younger you are, obviously you've got more time on your side, but it's there. You have to do this. This is a really crucial step. If you are all going out to work every single day and you're making money, and if you have automatic payments that are going into your TFSAs or your RRSPs and you have no idea what they're invested in, you have to go through this next activity that I'm going to take you through. And basically what it is I'm going to show you how to analyze your financial statements. And you can all do this at home. This is something that we do as coaches. I actually just did one this morning for a client of mine. We have a calculator that we use in coaching where we actually dissect and teach our clients about how to analyze their own financial statements. So let's go through what a very basic financial statement is going to look like for a lot of you. And there's a couple of really important notes on here that we need to figure out first. So the first thing that we want to look at is this here. These are what is known as codes or symbols. And every mutual fund and stock and ETF, anything that is actively traded on an exchange, has a specific code or symbol. And this is really important because this is what's going to allow you to see the exact information that's in your investments and what the fees are and everything else that pertains to that particular fund, right? Because you might have a code or symbol of a mutual fund that has very similar numbers that are associated with it, and it's all under the same family of mutual funds, but there might be slight differences in terms of the fee structure, or if it's a commission-based mutual fund or other-based, right? Like there's a lot of different things in these mutual funds. So this code and symbol is very important to understand. The second here is this column here. This is the quantity. Now, if all of you have financial statements, this is all going to be very similar on your financial statement, and this is basically how to read them. So as I mentioned, the first is the code or symbol, very important to understand. The second column here is the quantity. So this is typically how many units, there actually shouldn't be any dollar figures here. Sorry, that was a mess up on my part. This is the quantity of units of that fund that you hold. So this would typically say if this was a mutual fund DYN 1560, I would hold 217.9517 units of that particular mutual fund. So that's under quantity. The current price is the price when you get your financial statements, they usually come out every quarter or monthly if you are online, or annually. And on somewhere on your financial statement, it's going to show a date. So it'll show statement as of, let's say, June 30th, 2021. Well, this current price column here, this is how much you could potentially, or sorry, this is the cost of 1 unit of that mutual fund or ETF or stock as of the date that your financial advisor, or sorry, your financial statement came out. So if you were then to take the current price here and you were to multiply it by the quantity, that is how you would get your market value. And the market value is the cost that you could sell that mutual fund for, or all units of your mutual fund or your ETF or your stocks as of that particular date. So as of June the 30th, 2021, I could have sold all 217.9517 units of DYN 1560 for $3,162.48. That's the market value. And then the book value, this is the book value is the amount of money that you originally put into your fund. So you originally put into your mutual fund, plus typically any dividends that have been paid out over time. And so we've talked about before in Enriched Academy this principle of compounding interest. And so if you have a mutual fund such as this DYN 1560 and it pays out a quarterly dividend, those dividends are included in your book value here. So that's these columns over here. Now, we also want to take a look here at number 6. And this number 6 is this little area here. This is an FE cost. So let me just click this in here. So there's a couple of different, these here are different codes. So if you see 6 and 7 over here, these are different codes that one could potentially have only on mutual funds. Now, these codes here, I'm going to dive into a little bit further because these are excess sales commissions above and beyond the MER fees that are charged on specific mutual funds, depending on the code or symbol that they are. And so if you're dissecting your financial statement and if you see a DSC or an LL or a FE, these little codes, it means that more than likely there is some kind of fee, a sales commission fee that is attached to this particular mutual fund. So let's dive into that a little bit more. So the first sales charge we're going to talk about is called a deferred sales charge, DSC fee. And basically what this is that, let's say, for example, you have a financial advisor and you give your financial advisor $10,000. Or sorry, let's say you give your financial advisor $100,000 and you're giving them in year 1. And when you give your money to your financial advisor, you don't really know what they're putting your money into, right? They sit you down and they're like, yeah, we're going to put a portfolio together for you and it's going to be great. And you're going to make 60% annually, or they're going to throw some numbers around and, large jargon. And you just bob your head and you're like, okay, great. So they take your $100,000 and they put it into a mutual fund that has a deferred sales charge. Basically, what happens in that deferred sales charge mutual fund is that it is locked in for a specific period of time. And that period is usually between 5 and 7 years. So DSC fees can start at around 5.5% in year 1. And the longer that you hold on to them, the less and less your fees become. By usually year 7, you could sell those mutual fees without any kind of penalty. So this is an example of, let's say in year 1, you give your advisor $100,000 and you decide in year 1 that you need that $100,000 for whatever reason, and you are going to take that money out of that mutual fund. You're going to be charged $5,500 as a sales commission, right? And the longer you hold on to it, let's say you want to redeem this $100,000 in year 5, there's a $2,000 commission that is being paid to the financial advisor and also the brokerage. So it can get very expensive when you have deferred sales charges. Now, up to 5% of the total amount invested up front is how the brokerage and the advisor gets paid. Plus, there is a trailing fee of 0.5% to 1% annually that is paid to the financial advisor who sold you that fund. So you have to also remember these DSC fees, that's one fee that you're paying from your financial advisor, right? On top of that, you have an MER fee on these mutual funds. And some of these MER fees on mutual funds could be, as I've seen some that are up in like the 8s, 9s, and 10s. They're usually around 2 to 3%. But on top of these DSC fees that you might have on your mutual funds that are locking you in for a specific period of time, Your financial advisor is also getting paid on something known as a trailing fee. And that trailing fee would be coming out of the MER fee for your financial advisor. Now, how the fund gets paid, how the mutual fund itself gets paid is that they get paid. So the fund managers of a mutual fund get paid an annual MER fee. Those fund managers as well, if you decide to sell your mutual fund with a DSC fee, they get paid as well if you sell your funds prematurely, right? That's the redemption fee here. So there's an incentive for these financial advisors to sell their clients DSC fees because they get paid upfront, right? They get paid up to 5% of the total amount invested upfront. And then on top of that, they get money from the MER fees, which is this trailing commission. And then the fund managers themselves get paid out of this annual MER fee. And if you decide to sell prematurely, they get that redemption fee. So the advisors and the fund managers and, everybody's getting paid. And it's not to say that maybe you're not getting the results that you want, but more often than not, we see that the returns on these kinds of funds just aren't there because they're just getting eaten away by fees. The second type of sales charge is called a low load, and it's very similar to a deferred sales charge, whereas it happens if you redeem your funds earlier, except the fees are lower than deferred sales charge fees, and your money's only locked in for 2 to 3 years. And typically the fees are starting at around 1.5 to 3% annually in fees. So same thing, let's say you give your advisor $3,000 or $100,000, and in year one you want to redeem it, you're going to have to pay a sales charge of $3,000. Year two, $2,500. After year three, it's at zero, and you can redeem your fees with no extra charge and charges incurred by you at that point, right? Don't forget, along these 3 years, you're still paying your MER fees to the fund advisors, and it's being taken off of your annualized returns. Now, the third type is called front end or back end loaded fees. And we actually have been seeing a lot more of these front end loaded fees in clients who come into our coaching program. I think they are starting to kind of get away from deferred sales charge fees, which is good because I think there's been a lot of backlash in terms of these people who have been locked into these mutual funds and they can't take their money out for a year without incurring like huge amounts of penalty. So what we're starting to see actually is what's known as a front end or back end loaded mutual fund. Now, basically what happens, let's say you give your advisor $100,000 again. Let's go with the $100,000. And they put you into a front end loaded mutual fund. Well, that front end loaded mutual fund can have anywhere between a 0 to 5% sales commission. That's determined between you and your advisor when you first set up your portfolio. And your advisor could potentially be taking 5% every time that they purchase that mutual fund for you. So you give them $100,000. They decide, yep, this portfolio here looks good and it has a front end load. I'm going to take $5,000 right off the top for myself, and I'm going to take the remainder of that $95,000 that they have and invest it into this mutual fund. So they're going to take their $5,000 right off the top, and they give you the other $95,000 in that fund. So it can get very expensive, right? Because if you're giving somebody $100,000 and 5% right off the top is gone, and then on top of that you've got 2.5% in MER fees, you need to make sure that in that first year, you're making at least a 7.5% return just to get your fees paid back, right? So it can get very, very expensive for a lot of people. Now, there are some new disclosure rules that are out there for investors. And if those of you who are looking at your financial statement, we get a lot of clients who come into coaching and I'm like, what are your fees? And they're like, oh, I get paid. It's a dollar amount here. It's at the back. I can see it. My fees here are disclosed. I pay $400 a year. No, that's not all of it. And that's the biggest misconception of these new rules is that your financial statement only needs to show you what the advisor that you're working with is potentially making. So for example, I'm just going to take BMO, for example. If you are working with BMO, a representative at BMO, and they put you into a mutual fund, and that mutual fund has a management expense ratio of 2.2%. Of that 2.2%, there might be a 1% trailing commission, let's say. And that trailing commission would go to the actual advisor that you're working with at BMO. That 1% needs to be disclosed on your financial statement. The other 1.2% of your MER fees does not need to be disclosed because that 1.2% of MER fees is going to the fund managers who are actually running that mutual fund. So when you see these costs or these trailing commissions or whatever on your statement, that's usually only like a third or half of what you're actually paying. You don't actually see the remainder of it. And that's what we do in coaching is we help clients dissect their fees a little bit deeper so that they can actually understand the full amount that they're paying for. So let's say, for example, you've got a portfolio of $500,000 with an MER fee of 2.5%. Well, really, at the end of the day, what you're losing is $12,500 in fees, but your financial statement only needs to disclose that there's $5,000 of fees that have been paid. And Kevin usually does this document, or he usually does this webinar at the live event, but he always says, and I love this joke basically, but he's like, there's more transparency on, a pizza recipe or a pizza receipt. You go out for pizza and they just like going to the grocery store and you buy a plastic bag, like everything is marked down to the penny. And so there needs to be a change in the system, really, at the end of the day. Like the transparency is not there. But we're going to help you understand how to dissect your financial statement for fees. So let's go back to our original financial statement here, right? This was the original financial statement that we were using. And let's say we want to focus on this one mutual fund. And this is exactly what we do in coaching. So all of you afterwards can go through, you can do this exact activity, but it's really important that you figure out what kind of fees that you're paying on your financial or on your investments that are being held in your account. So let's say, for example, we have Dynamic Strategic Yield Fund. It's got a front-end load, and the code or symbol is DYN1560. Now, I personally use a site called Morningstar. It's great. It's a third-party site. You can go on there. You can type in any stock symbol or code. So that DYN1560, you can go to Morningstar, type in it up here and click go. And here it will come up with the actual mutual fund and the information about that mutual fund that we need to see. So we could see here that this particular mutual fund has an MER fee of 2.25%. It pays out a dividend of 4.57%. And you can see your since inception returned, what kind of category it's in, what's the asset allocation of that. If you go, there's usually a couple of other tabs up here that you can jump into to see like what are the investments held in this account, who's the manager of this account. And actually, if you go back here, you can see here the share class type is commission-based advice. So this is basically going to tell us that whoever's selling these mutual funds, they're getting a trailing commission from selling this mutual fund because they get a slice of this MER fee. So Morningstar is a really great site, and you can do this with all of your financial, anything on your financial statement. All you need is that particular code or symbol. We could take a look at this one, Brands US Equity. We're going to go up here. We're going to type in BIP 215. It's going to show us we have an MER fee of 2.75%. There is no dividend here at all. The load, this would be your sales commission, right? So here we can see that there's multiple sales commissions on this Brands US Equity. And depending on the particular code that you have in your portfolio will determine what sales commission there is associated with that mutual fund. So you could have, let's go back here one slide. You could have, for example, there might be 4 or 5 different Brands US Equity funds, but they may each have different symbols, right? You could have one that says BIP 215 that has a low load sales commission, right? You could have one that says BIP 216 that maybe has a deferred sales charge commission. Maybe there's one that BIP 214 and it has no load. There's no sales commission. So that's why those codes and symbols are really important. And when you're going into Morningstar, making sure that you are using the proper code when you are looking up all of your investment statements. So let's move forward a little bit, because what we do really in coaching is we teach clients about the alternatives of what they can do if they're really, they haven't been seeing really amazing returns. And we've been seeing awesome returns in the markets ever since COVID hit last year in March. It's like we're at all-time highs right now. And if you're not seeing that in your statements on a quarterly basis, then there is something going on behind closed doors and you need to take a deeper look into that. Well, let's take an example right now of a Brands US Equity mutual fund and compare it to a Vanguard S&P 500 index ETF. Because your growth of $100,000 is going to be so much higher at the end of the day because of what you are saving in MER fees. So you could have a mutual fund in your portfolio. Let's say it's Brands US Equity. And the value of that after 10 years is going to be about $186,398. So you're making a return of about $86,398. But your MER fee is taking away a lot of your returns year over year because you are paying other people for them to manage that mutual fund, right? Because mutual funds are actively managed by portfolio managers. So the MER cost at the end of that is about $30,069 in fees that you've paid for somebody to manage this portfolio, right? And those fees are just eating away every year at your returns. Let's say you take the same $100,000 and you invest it into a Vanguard S&P 500 index ETF that has an MER fee of 0.04%. But at the end of the 10 years, you would have only paid $6,654 in fees, and your return would have been a difference of $122,983. That's huge, right? And that's why it is so crucial for you right now or tonight or whenever you have time to go and look at your financial statements and look at how much money you are losing in fees every single year, because it's taking away from your retirement earnings. It's taking away from that dream home that you want to buy or your investment property if you've got money in a TFSA. Like, it's so that you lower your fees and also have the proper asset allocation and diversification that you need in your portfolio. It's really important to do. Now, I just want to give everybody a quick heads up, because if you do have deferred sales charge funds in your portfolio, don't panic. I mean, it would be good to have a conversation with your financial advisor to see when those DSC fees are up for renewal. But you are allowed to withdraw up to 10% of deferred sales charge mutual funds every year without penalty. You have to talk to your advisor about when you can do that, because sometimes in certain mutual funds, there's only a specific time of year that you can withdraw that 10% without any fees. So please talk to your financial advisor about when you can start doing that. The other thing that you need to understand is, more than likely your investments are going to be staggered, right? You typically, we find clients sit down with a financial advisor and they've been giving, let's say, $250 a month or $50 a week or whatever they're doing to a financial advisor, and their advisor is just staggering their investments, right? So they're putting them in year one, and then, every month after that, they take their money and they're putting them into these same mutual funds. So now all of a sudden you've got all these mutual funds that may have deferred sales charge fees on them. And, the newest amount of money that you gave to your financial advisor may not be coming due until another 7 years from now. But you might have a couple of mutual funds that you've had sitting in there for a long time that may be coming up for renewal without any kind of penalty. So make sure you talk to your advisor about these fees and what you can do to start getting out of them and move your money away into at least mutual funds. If you're going to stay with the same advisor, at least stick with mutual funds that don't have any sales commissions on them, because it gets very expensive for you. So let's take a look at our investment summary. So we can see here, once we have gone through everything, and this is what we do in coaching, is we actually go through all of your individual investments, and we type beside there, how much are you paying in fees? And we can show you at the end of the day how much you've paid in MER fees. And it can get very, very scary for a lot of people. But what you can do then is that you can make a choice, right? At this point in time, you have the choice to sit down with your financial advisor and ask them, what can I do to reduce my fees? There's a lot of financial advisors out there that are realizing that people are starting to move away from them because they're paying very high fees. You can discuss negotiating lower fees and potentially having your financial advisor build you a portfolio of exchange traded funds where you pay them a flat fee every single year. You just want to make sure that you understand where you've been putting your money and what you've been paying for all these years, right? Now, the other fee that we were going to talk about, we've talked about the commission-based fees, or how the advisors get paid on a commission base. But the other fee is just, it's a flat fee, basically. So you receive a fee for advice or ongoing management. So for example, you have a financial advisor you meet up with once a year. Maybe you've been managing your own finances in between that year, and you go to them and you say, I just need to sit down with you. Please go over my stuff for an hour. I'll pay you $500. So that's a fee-based advisor. Now, if you're going to be using a fee-based advisor, you want to make sure that they're certified CFP. and that they can provide you not just with an investment knowledge, but the whole shebang, right? You want, hopefully, if you're going to pay somebody that kind of money, you want to make sure that they're going to be doing tax planning and estate planning. And, some of them do private real estate investing and, a personalized financial plans with index to the rate of inflation and all of these other things. So if you're going to be paying somebody fee based, just make sure that they're going to give you the whole kit and caboodle. Because it's not difficult to find a lot of this information on your own, especially from the investment side of things. That's one small part of finding a good financial advisor, right? Anybody can find an advisor that's going to invest their money, but if you are requiring somebody that's going to go a little bit deeper into your financial your portfolio, you want to make sure that they have basically all of these different things, and they're very transparent with their fees. So we've put together a really quick financial advisor interrogation kit. And basically, we think that if you are looking for a new advisor, this is something that you want to kind of focus on. So it's okay to interview at least 4 different advisors, 2 that are commission based, so they get paid from the products that they sell, and 2 that are fee based, that you pay them an hourly amount, and you pay them, they give you your plan, and off you go. Make sure they are certified CFP. Ensure they take the time to understand what you want and what your needs are and your financial goals. Find out how they are getting paid. And lastly, make sure you figure out how much it would cost to get you out of any investments that you potentially put in with them, right? Because it can get very, very costly. So I'm going to get to the questions in a second, but I wanted to go through our financial freedom coaching program. And I know that a lot of you are really interested in coaching. We get a lot of clients, like I said, who are very interested in doing self-directed investing. They've been investing with their advisor for the last 20, 30 years, and they have no idea what their investments are doing. They don't know the fees they're paying. They don't even know the questions to ask. And this is something that we go through one-on-one with you in coaching. So I wanted to go through our program really quickly and just teach you a little bit about why financial freedom coaching works. More than 2/3 of Canadians worry a lot about money, but 69% of them still don't have a plan. And the number one cause of stress for Canadians, 38% of them says money is the biggest stressor in their life. 70% of Canadians don't have a retirement plan and think they won't save enough for retirement. And basically, the reason for this is because we're living in a very interesting world right now where costs are skyrocketing through the roof. The housing market is skyrocketing through the roof. Grocery bills, taxes, everything else is going through the roof. And people are taking all of their earnings, and what they're seeing is they're either seeing no growth or no growth in savings or investments, because maybe their investments aren't in the proper places that they should be. They're trying to figure out how to get rid of all this high interest debt, or all of their earnings is going right towards bills, right? They're living paycheck to paycheck. And most people, before they come into coaching, they don't know what to do about it. And what ends up happening is that they're basically just trading time for money, right? And this is probably, some of you here might just be saying, okay, if I just work more money, or if I work more hours, I'm going to get more money, and then I'm going to have more money, but I got to put in more time, right? And this is really horrible, vicious cycle that creates a lot of burnout, anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. And so what we do in coaching is we do things a little bit differently, right? We don't ask you to go out and typically find another job unless you're in a lot of debt and you need another job. It's actually just not, you're not able to get out of it without a supplementary source of income. But what we do really in coaching is that we provide a roadmap for you. And so if you have a financial goal, let's say it's to buy a house in 5 years, or you have a financial goal that you want to retire in 10 years, all that we do is we set up your finances like a GPS system. Where are you right now? And where do you want to be? And the directions in between that GPS from point A to point B, these are all the steps and plans and everything that we go through with you in order for you to be able to achieve the financial freedom that you've always dreamed of, regardless of where you are in life and regardless of what your financial goals are. So here are some of our most recent, as of June 2021. We've helped our average clients increase their net worth by $49,298.72. We've helped our clients increase their credit score by 28 points. That's the average coaching client. The total advisor fees saved, that's what we're talking about today. We've helped the average client save 1.25% annually in MER fees. And if you took that amount of money by the amount of assets that our clients had under management, it would be, I would say, close to $1 million. with all the clients that we worked with over time. It's huge. And more money in your pocket means that you are that much closer to achieving the financial freedom that you've always dreamed of. We've helped our average coaching client decrease their monthly spend by $1,214.52. And we've also helped them decrease their credit card debt by $3,574.63. Now, why financial freedom coaching? We are the #1 program in Canada for results. This program does work. And the reason that it works is because you have enhanced accountability with a coach by your side who is helping you one-on-one and providing you with bias-free financial advice from somebody who has lived this and they are a financial expert. This program is truly life-changing. We have had clients come in here before who are married, who have told us that we've helped them save their marriage. They now have the financial expertise to be able to teach their kids about how to manage money when their kids get older. We just worked with a whole bunch of police officers out in BC who literally, they all are going to be retiring with pensions. And a lot of them didn't realize that their pensionable earnings weren't going to be enough to cover the expenses that they were going to have in retirement. So we helped them change their things around so that they could open up a TFSA and invest properly, or they could use equity of their home and use that for investment purposes and create this new passive income that we all want to have in life. So it truly is a life-changing program, and it's going to be the best return on investment that you're ever going to receive. Now, Warren Buffett says you will work until the day you die unless you learn to make money while you sleep. And this is our system. We take your earnings and we help you create those earnings and turn them into assets. And those assets produce some kind of passive income, whether it's through dividend income, real estate income, you going to work every day income. We just help you manage that income a lot better so that that income can support the lifestyle that you want to live. And so eventually you've got this really great cycle that is, working. Basically, you're making money while you're sleeping. I have right now, I'll tell everybody in here, I have enough passive income right now to pay for my lifestyle the way, like me, I'm a renter in Toronto. I have no shame in saying I'm a renter in Toronto. But I have enough passive income coming in now that if I wanted to retire tomorrow, I could. And I'm 34 years old. And I've been doing this since I was 18, right? I've been doing this since I was 18. I was very lucky to have parents who taught me the value of money. This is definitely my passion of life. I have read a lot. I've done the research and I've put all of this into practice. And the system works if you are willing to make a change in your life. And if this is not the system that you have right now, it's broken and it needs to switch, right? And that's all it is. We have clients that have a broken system and they come into coaching. We don't ask them to go out and make more money. We just need to kind of adjust what they have right now and focus on different financial priorities so that they can move forward and sleep at night because they've got passive income coming in regardless of what they're doing. Now, this is one of our clients here. I actually wanted to point out a couple of really awesome testimonials that we've had from clients, but really what I wanted to show here is that we helped Frank. He's not a financial advisor. He's a real estate real estate agent, in the Ottawa area. And we helped him decrease his investment fees by 1.4%. Now, what happens when you help somebody decrease their investment fees and now they've got more money in their pocket? Well, it helps you increase your net worth, basically, at the end of the day. And it gives you more money to, if you've got more money in your TFSA, all of a sudden it gives you more money to pay down some of your debts if you have debts, or put more money into an RRSP or whatever you want to do. Here's another one of my coaching clients. This is Jan. She was actually one of the very first clients that I had worked with back in 2017. She had been using an advisor for years, I think she said 20, 30 years. And she just had never questioned anything that her advisor was doing. So I sat down with Jan and I taught her how to read her investment statement, and we talked about her asset allocation, and we took a look at the investments that she had in her portfolio. And I went to her, and this was I guess it was the end of 2017, 2018. And I went to her and I was like, Jan, you didn't make any money last year. This is actually showing that you lost money in the markets. And it was a really great year last year. You should have made something. And she went to her financial advisor and, we talked about the things that she should have asked the advisor. And she found she was paying 2.5% in fees every single year. And she was obviously not getting the value for the money that she was paying. So I helped her. She interrogated, she went through the financial advisor interrogation kit. She interviewed a couple of different financial advisors and she found an alternative and was able to reduce her fees by $17,000 a year. $17,000 a year. Now, Jan was a higher net worth client, but $17,000 a year, making a 10% return over the next 5 years, like that's, it's just money that's now making money while Jan's sleeping. So in 20 years from now, what will your life look like if you don't learn how to manage your money and create passive income? So what I'm going to offer you today, and for those of you who have been on our webinars before, but we offer this financial assessment call. And if you go into the chat box wherever the chat box is, our lovely support Mark is going to type in he's going to put a financial assessment call link in there. Basically what it is, it's a free 45-minute assessment call where you can talk to one of our financial strategists, and they're going to determine if coaching might be a good program for you. And the first thing that they're going to do is they want to have a conversation with you. They just want to see, where are you right now? You're going to receive an unbiased, straightforward, trustworthy evaluation of your finances. What are your pain points? Where are you right now? What happened to get you into this state that you're in? And how do we change things moving forward so that you can set different goals for your future? And then what's going to happen is, once they basically figure out what your goals are and whether coaching or one of our other programs is right for you, they're going to help to they're going to provide you with different options and give you some personalized guidance on next steps. So make sure that you sign up. It is limited availability. So please take time to schedule in your call. If you have a partner or a spouse, we love having partners and spouses in coaching. So if you have one, if you want to do this by yourself just because you want to learn, you're like, it's time for me to grab the bull by the horns and take control of my own finances, you want to do it yourself, that's totally fine. If you are 16 years old, if you're 68 years old, or you're in retirement, we take anybody and everybody who is willing to make a change with their finances and coaching. Make sure you sign up for the free 45-minute financial assessment call. Add the date and time to your calendar. Please, please, please show up for the call, because we only have a certain amount of limited availability. And they do typically go quick. So if you don't show up for your call, you're taking away that spot from somebody else. And all we want to do here is start to help you create a better financial plan for your own financial future. So, questions. I'm just going to end this slideshow here so I can actually see some questions on our stream here. Okay, so who do we have? Alex. Oh, Alex is one of my coaching clients. He says, that was extremely helpful for Kelly and I. Thanks, Alex. That was so great. And Judith is here. Judith's one of our coaches. So Ziv says, if you want to move to new advisor or change the investment, you get dinged. Been there, wouldn't do it again. Yes, Ziv. Definitely can get dinged. That's the big thing, right? It depends on where your investments are. But yes, you can definitely be dinged if you were to pull your investments out. So that's why it's really important, if you do have DSC fees, to discuss with your advisor on where your fees may be and how much it's going to cost for you to get out of those fees. Carolina says DSC is not a bad idea if it's for the long term. I guess it depends on how you look at things. I don't think anybody's investments should be locked in. I mean, for a long period of time, especially if they're not creating the returns that the rest of the market has been making. So I personally haven't seen a deferred sales charge fund that has outperformed the overall index. But I would love to see one, Carolina, if you have one. Okay. So Carolina says, what about the performance of the ETF? Is it the same as mutual funds? So I don't want to say the performance can be the same. There are definitely mutual funds out there that I have seen that have outperformed exchange traded funds, but it's very rare to see. I've only really I've personally, since starting with Enrich, I've personally worked with over 400 clients. And I could tell you, I've only told 2 clients that they could keep their mutual funds where they were because they were outperforming the overall index. So it's not a great, that's not a good ratio, I think. I think more often than not, you're going to find that if you do ETF index investing, over time, it'll probably outperform a mutual fund that had a very similar asset allocation and portfolio holdings. Megan says, when should we consider getting a fee-based financial advisor? I've seen their fees are mostly a few $1,000s. Yeah, so Megan, it really depends on you and what you need from a financial advisor. we have clients who come into coaching who they don't need help with their cash flow. Or they come into they come into coaching and we teach them about how to manage a lot of these things on their own, right? We are the educators and we help them execute on these different things. So they come in and, they don't need help with their cash flow. We take them through a net worth tracker so they understand what their net worth is. They know how to get out of their debt, so they get out of their debt. And then all of a sudden now they want to self-direct their portfolio. If you come to a point in your financial portfolio, I would say that you need a little bit more, like you want to do some tax strategy planning, you are getting into retirement, and you want to take a look at your OAS and your CPP and kind of integrate all of that in a more in-depth approach, then I think it might be good to do a fee-based financial advisor. But yeah, they are expensive, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of at a point with your overall portfolio that you are ready and you are going to basically it's what the information that they're giving you is going to be useful, right? Like I right now don't need a fee-based financial advisor. When I retire, I probably do. I'm probably going to hire somebody to go over my stuff and just say, how much can I start taking out? Some accountants and CFPs can do this. But how much do I want to start taking out of my retirement portfolio so that I can live off of, right? And so at that point, I might hire a fee-based advisor, but I guess it kind of depends on where you are in your financial journey. Are the management fees, when quoted, always included in the quoted MER fee? Yes, Angela, they usually are. Actually, I wanted to see here. I was just trying to think. Let me just give you all 1 second, because the other thing, just give me 1 sec here. The other thing that a lot of you can look up. I mean, I just use Morningstar because it's probably the easiest place to go to get like all of your information. But you can also, every mutual fund that you have, hold on, let me just share my screen with you all so you can see what I'm looking at. There we go. Okay, so every mutual fund out there, I hope you all can see this. Every mutual fund out there also has something that's known as a fund fact document. So what it is, basically, it looks like a document like this. I'll just try to make it a little bit bigger. It has what your management expense ratio is. This is very similar to what you could find on Morningstar, but every individual mutual fund has something known as a fund fact document. It's got the fund code. It's got, the US version, if there is a US version, then it has the investment mix. So this is your asset allocation. How is this mutual fund invested in particular assets, right? So we could see this one has 33.3% fixed income funds. And then we've got over here, this is a bond fund. This 15.2% would be in that 33.3%. This would be in that 33.3%. Anything here that basically says bond fund would be a part of this 33.3 fixed income security. Now, if you scroll down here, it actually breaks down so usually it'll show also your sales charges. So if there were any DSC fees or front-end load fees, that would be disclosed here. This particular mutual fund has no loads. That means you pay no sales charges if you buy, redeem, or switch your units. So that's good. That's a plus. And then down here, you can actually see what the MER is made up of. So the MER is actually made up of a couple of different things. That's a really great question. The MER fee is, so there's out of the MER fee, you have the management fee, which is the fee that's being paid to the managers and the financial advisor who sold you the fund, right? That's the trailing commission. And then on top of that, there's administrative fees, taxes, and other fund costs like marketing stuff and all of these other things. Then you've got your trading expense ratio, which is the fund's trading costs. So when they buy and sell different investments within the fund, that's the trading cost there. And then you've got your overall fund expenses of 1.99%. So it can get very expensive. So if you do have also a mutual fund at home, you might want to take a look at the MER fee that you are the fund facts document, because it might be a little bit more in depth than what Morningstar is. But yeah. So there's Leslie. Hi, Leslie. How are you? I don't think I have oh, here we go. Artemio. Hi, Artemio. How are you? He says, I have an RRSP plan with employers matching, but the funds that I could invest in is very limited. What would you advise to maximize returns on this? That's a good question. I'm always of the notion, especially if it's your RRSP, and I think you do have time on your side, Artemio, from what I remember when you were in coaching. If you have time on your side and it makes sense that you could be in more of a growth or aggressive portfolio because it is your RSP and potentially you're not going to be taking it out until you're 71, I would take the employer matching, right? It's completely like, I don't know how much they're matching, but they're giving you free money at the end of the day. And even if your free money isn't going to be, maybe it's not going to be in the best, maybe you have very high fees. I know usually employers will give you this book that has like a number of different investments that you can invest with in there, and sometimes you can pick them and sometimes you can't. But you can always talk to HR, right? Because I have heard of some, well, not clients per se, but I know that I have heard of, well, I guess there have been some clients who have employer matching contributions where they're actually allowed to I don't want to say self-directed, but there's other options for them that is outside of this book of things that they receive. Okay, so I think that's it. We don't really have we've got 9 minutes left. I don't really see any other questions coming in. So for those of you who can, please sign up for that assessment call. Mark should have put it into the chat box down below. Thank you so much for everybody coming. Please, 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 if you have financial statements, go home, like take a look at them, dissect them, just make sure that you are paying the fees that you should be paying. And yeah, I guess we'll see you all next time. I think that's it for today, unless we got a couple more questions coming in, but I think that was everything. Thank you all so much for coming. We hope to see a lot of you in coaching. Hopefully next year we see a lot of you at our future events. And that is it from me for today. So thank you all very much. Everybody have a great day.